The space around the gas giant Cathara was usually quiet. The massive planet turned slowly in the darkness, its colorful clouds swirling in patterns that had not changed for thousands of years. Above it, the small research station called Villani 7 floated peacefully. The station looked fragile compared to the huge planet below. Its white metal walls and spinning sections seemed tiny against the giant orange and blue world. Captain Zixka was having his morning tea when the alarm started ringing. The sound made his long, thin fingers shake as he set down his cup. The Villani were not built for stress. Their bodies were tall and thin, with pale skin that showed their veins clearly. They had evolved on a world with low gravity and gentle weather. Violence and danger were things they read about in history books, not things they faced every day. "Captain," called his communications officer, her voice high with worry. "We have picked up a distress signal." Zixka walked quickly to the bridge. His footsteps made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. The bridge was small and clean, with screens showing peaceful images of space around them. But now one screen was flashing red. "Show me," he said. The screen changed to show a map of the local area. A small red dot was blinking about 6 hours away from their station. Next to the dot were lines of text in the common galactic language. "Standard merchant vessel in distress," read the communications officer. "Engine failure. Life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance." Zixka looked at the message and felt the familiar weight of responsibility. The Villani had always been helpers in the galaxy. They were good at math and science, but they were also kind. They could not ignore someone who needed help. "How far?" he asked. 6 hours at full speed, Captain." Zixka thought for a moment. Their research ship was not built for rescue missions, but it had medical equipment and extra air supplies. They could help. "Send a message to Galactic Council," he said. "Tell them we are responding to a distress call. Then set course for those coordinates." The ship turned smoothly and began moving toward the blinking red dot. As they traveled through space, Zixka felt nervous but also proud. This was what the Villani did best. They helped others. It took 6 hours and 17 minutes to reach the coordinates. During that time, the distress signal kept repeating the same message over and over, but as they got closer, something felt wrong. "Captain," said the science officer, looking at his instruments with confusion, "the signal is not coming from empty space. There is something here." Zixka looked at the main screen. At first he saw nothing but stars. Then the ship's computer found it and put a box around it. Slowly the image became clear. It was a ship, but not like any ship Zixka had ever seen. It was huge, much bigger than their research vessel. Its shape was strange, like someone had grown it instead of building it. The hull was dark and seemed to move slightly as if it was breathing. Strange lights pulsed along its sides in patterns that made no sense. "What kind of ship is that?" whispered the communications officer. The science officer was checking his database. His thin fingers moved quickly over his controls. After a few minutes, he looked up with fear in his large eyes. "Captain, the computer cannot identify this ship design. It is not in any of our records." "But the energy readings," he paused and checked again. "Captain, there are still life signs inside that ship." Zixka felt cold fear run through his body. This was not a simple rescue mission anymore. The ship in front of them was ancient and alien and completely unknown. But someone inside was still alive, and they were calling for help. "Keep our distance," he ordered, "but keep monitoring the life signs." For 20 minutes they watched the strange ship. It hung in space like a sleeping giant. The distress signal kept playing, but now they could tell it was coming from inside the hull. Whatever was in there was trapped. "Captain," said the science officer quietly, "I have been thinking about the ship's design. The biomechanical structure, the energy patterns. I think this might be a harbinger vessel." The bridge became completely silent. Every Villani on the ship knew about the harbingers. They were the monsters from the old stories. 50,000 years ago, they had tried to conquer the entire galaxy. They had destroyed worlds and enslaved entire species. They were the reason many races had learned to build weapons, but they had disappeared long ago and everyone thought they were extinct. "That's impossible," Zixka said, but his voice was shaking. "The harbingers are gone. They have been gone for 50,000 years. "The computer says the design matches old records," the science officer replied. "And Captain, the energy readings are getting weaker. Whatever is alive in there is dying." Zixka looked at the alien ship and felt torn between fear and duty. Every instinct told him to run away as fast as possible. This ship could contain the most dangerous beings in galactic history. But someone inside was dying and they had asked for help. Send a message to the nearest Galactic Council fleet, he decided. Tell them what we have found. Request immediate backup. Captain, said the communications officer after checking her instruments. The nearest Council fleet is the human fleet from Earth. Zixka almost laughed, but he was too scared. The humans were new to the galaxy. They came from a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species could not even visit it. The humans were tough and strong and seemed to enjoy danger. They were the exact opposite of the peaceful Villani, but they were also the closest help available. Send the message, he said. Tell them we have found what appears to be a harbinger derelict with life signs aboard. Tell them we need help. As the message flew through space toward the human fleet, Zixka kept watching the ancient ship. Inside, someone was dying. Soon the Deathworlders would arrive. He just hoped they would know what to do. The strange ship continued to pulse with its alien lights, keeping its secrets in the darkness of space. Whatever was inside had been waiting for 50,000 years. Now finally someone had heard their call for help, but the helpers coming were not what anyone expected. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue energy. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, watching the stars settle back into normal patterns. Around her ship, 12 other human vessels took their positions in a careful formation. They were ready for anything. Admiral, called Lieutenant Torres from the communication station, we're receiving a signal from the Villani research vessel. Put it on screen. The main display showed Captain Zixka's thin, worried face. Behind him, Sarah could see other Villani crew members moving nervously around their bridge. She had worked with Villani before. They were gentle people, brilliant scientists, but not built for dangerous situations. Admiral Chen, Zixka said, his voice shaking slightly. Thank you for coming so quickly. We have a situation that is very concerning. Show me what you found, Captain. The screen changed to show the massive alien vessel. Even Sarah, who had seen many strange things in her years serving on Earth's most dangerous missions, felt surprised. The ship was enormous and seemed almost alive. Its dark hull moved slightly like it was breathing. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed to follow no human logic. How big is that thing? Asked Commander Walsh, Sarah's second in command. Nearly 2 kilometers long, replied Zixka. And Admiral, our computers believe this is a Harbinger vessel. The human bridge became quiet. Sarah had read about the Harbingers in the Galactic history files. They were the ancient enemy that had nearly conquered everything 50,000 years ago. Most species still had nightmares about them, but Sarah Chen had been born on Earth where nightmares were just another day at the office. Life signs? She asked. Yes, Admiral. Faint, but definitely there. Something is still alive inside that ship. Sarah looked at the readings her science team was gathering. The energy patterns were unlike anything in their database, but the biosigns were clear. Living beings were inside that ancient hull and they were getting weaker. Captain Zixka, she said, have you been able to make contact with whoever is inside? No, Admiral. Only the automated distress signal. It has been repeating for, he checked his instruments, 7 hours now. Sarah turned to her tactical officer. Any weapons signatures from the derelict? Nothing active, Admiral. Whatever weapons it might have had are either destroyed or powered down. Commander Walsh moved closer to Sarah and spoke quietly. Admiral, this could be a trap. The Harbingers were known for their tricks. Sarah nodded. Walsh was right to be careful, but she was also looking at the life sign readings. Whatever was inside that ship was dying, and in her 20 years of military service, Sarah Chen had learned one important thing. When someone needed help, you helped them. Everything else could be figured out later. Get me a boarding team, she ordered. Marines and medical staff. And bring Dr. Park from Xenobiology. Admiral, Zixka's voice came from the speakers. You cannot be serious about boarding that vessel. If those are truly Harbingers inside, Sarah looked at the Villani captain's worried face. She understood his fear. His people were peaceful and had good reasons to be scared of ancient monsters. But humans were different. They had grown up on a world where everything tried to kill them. They had learned not to let fear stop them from doing what was right. Captain, someone inside that ship is dying, she said. Whether they're Harbingers or anyone else, they asked for help. We're going to help them. The Villani captain looked shocked. Admiral, the Harbingers nearly destroyed the galaxy. Every species fears them. Maybe, Sarah replied, But fear doesn't change the fact that someone needs rescue. We'll take precautions, but we're going aboard. She turned back to her crew. Commander Walsh, prepare the boarding shuttle. Full marine escort, but non-lethal weapons only unless absolutely necessary. Dr. Park, bring everything you need for emergency medical treatment of unknown species. Dr. Amanda Park, the ship's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward. She was a small woman with dark hair and curious eyes. Like many scientists, she seemed more excited than scared about the mystery ahead. Admiral, this could be the most important first contact in galactic history, she said. If there are living harbingers in there, we could learn so much. First, we keep them alive, Sarah said. Then we worry about learning from them. The boarding shuttle was ready in 30 minutes. Marine Captain Rodriguez led a team of 8 soldiers, all carrying non-lethal stun weapons and emergency medical supplies. Dr. Park brought 3 medical assistants and enough equipment to set up a small hospital. As the shuttle flew toward the alien vessel, Sarah watched from the Resilience's bridge. The Villani ship stayed at a safe distance, but she could see their sensors following every move. Shuttle team, report, she said into her communicator. Approaching the hull now, Admiral, came Rodriguez's voice. The ship's surface is strange. It looks more grown than built. Like coral or bone. Any response from inside? Negative. The distress signal is still playing, but no one is answering our calls. The shuttle found what looked like an airlock and attached itself. Sarah watched the readings as her team tried to make contact with the alien ship's computer systems. Admiral, Dr. Park's voice came through the radio. The technology here is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. The biomechanical integration is far beyond anything we've developed. Can you get inside? Working on it. The ship's systems seem to be responding to our presence. It's like it wants to let us in. After 20 minutes of careful work, the team managed to open the alien airlock. As they entered the ship, their helmet cameras sent images back to both human and Villani vessels. The inside of the ship was as strange as the outside. The walls curved smoothly, looking more like the inside of a living creature than a machine. Soft lights pulsed gently along the corridors, leading them deeper into the vessel. Life signs are stronger this way, Dr. Park reported, following her scanner. Whatever we're looking for is in the central section. Be careful, Sarah warned. We don't know what we're walking into. But as the team moved deeper into the ship, Sarah felt something unexpected. The alien vessel didn't feel hostile or dangerous. It felt sad, like something that had been alone for a very long time. Admiral, Rodriguez's voice came through the radio, sounding surprised. You need to see this. The helmet cameras showed what the team had found. In a large chamber at the heart of the ship, rows of transparent pods lined the walls. Inside the pods, barely visible through the misty surfaces, were shapes that might have been people. Cryogenic pods, Dr. Park said with wonder in her voice. Admiral, I think these are survivors in cold sleep. Sarah looked at the images and felt her understanding of the situation change completely. These weren't ancient monsters waiting to attack. These were refugees sleeping through the centuries waiting for someone to find them. How many? She asked. 15 pods total, Dr. Park reported. 12 are still functioning. 3 have failed over time. Admiral, came a new voice from the ship's computer system. It was artificial but somehow tired. Thank you for coming. We have been waiting so very long. Sarah took a deep breath. Whatever they had found, it was not what anyone expected. The most feared species in galactic history had turned out to be a family of survivors, sleeping through the ages, hoping someone would answer their call for help. We're here now, she said simply. We're going to get you out. Dr. Amanda Park carefully attached her medical scanner to the first cryogenic pod. The readings that appeared on her screen made her gasp with amazement. The being inside was definitely alive, but barely. After 50,000 years in cold sleep, their body was working at the very edge of survival. Admiral, she said into her radio, these life support systems are incredible. Whoever built them made them to last forever, but they're failing now. We need to wake these people up soon or we're going to lose them. Through her helmet camera, Admiral Chen could see the shape inside the pod more clearly now. It was humanoid but taller than a human, with long limbs and what looked like natural armor plating along the arms and back. The face was peaceful in sleep, almost gentle. Can you safely wake them? Sarah asked. I think so. The ship's AI is helping me understand the process. Admiral, this artificial intelligence, it's not like anything we've seen before. It's been alone for 50,000 years, but it's still completely functional. It's been taking care of these people all this time. Captain Rodriguez and his Marines had spread out through the chamber, checking for threats, but instead of weapons or war machines, they found something completely different. Along the walls were pictures and what looked like family belongings. Children's toys, books, art supplies. "Admiral," Rodriguez said quietly, "this doesn't look like a warship. It looks like people's homes." The ship's AI spoke again, its voice carrying sadness that seemed to echo through the halls. "Commander Rodriguez is correct. This vessel was not built for war. It was built for escape." Dr. Park looked up from her scanner. "Can you tell us what happened?" "Who are you?" "We are the last of our kind who chose peace over conquest," the AI replied. "When our civilization split apart in civil war, we were the ones who refused to fight. We were the ones who said no to endless expansion and destruction." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air in the alien ship. "You're saying the Harbingers had a civil war?" "Yes, Admiral Chen. The ones you know from your history books were the Dominion faction. They believed in conquest and expansion at any cost. We were the Sanctuary faction. We believed in exploration and cooperation. When the war began, the Dominion had the larger fleet and the stronger weapons. We could not win." Dr. Park was working on the first pod while listening to the AI story. "So you ran?" "We saved who we could. Families, children, scientists and artists and teachers. Anyone who wanted peace instead of war. We loaded them into ships like this one and sent them away from our homeworlds." "How many ships?" Sarah asked. 7 vessels escaped. Over the centuries, we lost contact with the others. Mechanical failures. Navigation errors, pirates. This ship is the last one." Rodriguez found something that made him call out to the others. "Dr. Admiral, you need to see this." He was standing in front of a wall covered with images. But these weren't war plans or weapon designs. They were family pictures. Parents holding children. Groups of friends smiling together. Graduation ceremonies. Birthday parties. Quiet moments of normal life. These people, Dr. Park said softly, they were just trying to live. "The Dominion faction destroyed themselves within 1,000 years, the AI continued. Their endless wars consumed everything they had. They turned their weapons on each other when they ran out of other targets. The Harbinger Empire fell not because someone defeated them, but because they could not stop fighting." Sarah was looking at the images when something caught her attention. In several pictures she could see children. Young Harbingers playing games and laughing. They looked so normal, so innocent. "How many children are in the pods?" she asked. 3, replied the AI. "The youngest is barely past adolescence by our standards. She has been sleeping for 50,000 years, waiting to see sunlight again." Dr. Park finished her work on the first pod. "Admiral, I'm ready to begin the waking process. But I should warn you, after so long in cold sleep, they're going to be very weak and confused. Do it." The pod began to make soft humming sounds. Lights along its surface started flashing in complex patterns. Slowly, the mist inside began to clear. Dr. Park watched her medical readings carefully, ready to help if something went wrong. "Vital signs are stabilizing," she reported. "Brain activity is increasing. I think it's working." The being inside the pod was a female Harbinger, tall and graceful even lying down. Her skin was pale green with silver markings along her arms. As they watched, her large eyes slowly opened. She looked around in confusion, seeing the strange faces of humans looking down at her. For a moment, fear flashed across her features. Then she heard the ship's AI speaking to her in the Harbinger language, explaining what had happened. When she tried to speak, her voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Park quickly gave her water and checked her condition. "She's going to be fine," Dr. Park said, "but she needs time to recover." The Harbinger woman looked up at Sarah with curious, intelligent eyes. When she spoke again, it was in the common galactic language, though her accent was strange and old-fashioned. "You are the ones who answered our call?" she asked. "Yes," Sarah replied simply. "We're here to help." Tears began to run down the Harbinger woman's face. "I am Kesna, formerly of the research station Bright Harbor. We have been waiting so long. The AI told us that someday someone would find us and help us find a new home." "Kesna," Sarah said gently. "I'm Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Federation. These are my people. We're going to get you and your family to safety." "Human?" Kesna looked confused. "I do not know this species. Are you part of the Galactic Council? We're new to the galaxy, Sarah explained. Our world only made contact a few years ago. Kesna struggled to sit up and Dr. Park helped her. What is your world like? Sarah smiled. Dangerous. We call it a death world. Most species can't survive there. Then you understand survival, Kesna said with a weak smile. You understand what it means to keep going when everything tries to stop you? Yes, we do. Dr. Park was already preparing the second pod for waking. Admiral, should I continue with the others? Sarah was about to answer when her radio crackled with a new voice. It was Captain Zixka from the Villani ship, and he sounded panicked. Admiral Chen, we are receiving multiple incoming signals. Galactic Council fleets are approaching. They received word about the Harbinger vessel and they're coming armed for war. Sarah felt her stomach drop. How long do we have? 6 hours, maybe 7. She looked at Kesna and the sleeping pods containing her family and friends. These people had been running from war for 50,000 years. They had found peace in sleep, waiting for someone to save them. Now the galaxy was coming to destroy them again. Dr. Park, wake the others, all of them as fast as safely possible. Admiral? Rodriguez asked. We're getting these people out of here, Sarah said firmly. All of them. Before the shooting starts. Kesna looked up at her with hope and fear mixed in her ancient eyes. You would do this for us? Even knowing what your galaxy thinks of our kind? Sarah looked at the family pictures on the walls. She thought about the children sleeping in the pods. She thought about parents who had run from war to give their kids a chance at peace. Kesna, she said quietly, every person deserves a chance to live without fear. Your war ended 50,000 years ago. It's time for you to come home. As Dr. Park worked to wake the other survivors, and Rodriguez's team prepared to evacuate them to the human ships, Sarah sent a message to her fleet. All ships prepare for immediate departure. We have civilians to protect, and company coming that might not be friendly. The ancient ship hummed around them as its long-sleeping passengers slowly awakened to a new galaxy. Outside, the stars waited patiently to see what would happen when the Deathworld's children met the galaxy's ancient fear. One thing was certain. The Harbingers would not face the galaxy's judgment alone. The humans would stand with them. The Galactic Council fleet arrived like thunder in the darkness. 15 heavy warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately formed an attack pattern around the human vessels. Their weapon systems were powered up and ready to fire. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from her bridge as the Council ships surrounded them. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Council Fleet Commander. Put it on screen. The main display showed Admiral Vextor, a Krillian with the typical forearms and thick armored skin of his species. The Krillians were known throughout the galaxy as excellent soldiers and careful planners. Vextor's expression was stern and unforgiving. Admiral Chen, he said without greeting, you will immediately surrender the Harbinger vessel and all survivors to Galactic Council authority. This is not a request, Sarah stood straighter. Admiral Vextor, these are refugees, not warriors. They've been in cold sleep for 50,000 years. That changes nothing. The Harbingers are a threat to all galactic civilization. They must be contained and studied. You have 30 minutes to comply. The transmission ended abruptly. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared but determined. Like all humans, they had been raised on stories of fighting impossible odds. Admiral, Commander Walsh said quietly, we're outnumbered 5-1. If it comes to a fight, I know the odds, Commander. Sarah's communicator chimed. It was Dr. Park from the medical bay, where they had brought the awakened Harbingers. Admiral, you need to come down here. There's something you should see. Sarah left the bridge and walked quickly to the medical bay. When she entered, she found all 12 surviving Harbingers awake and sitting together on medical beds. They looked weak and confused, but they were talking quietly among themselves in their ancient language. Kesna saw Sarah and stood up slowly. Admiral Chen, the ship's AI has told us about the situation. The galaxy still fears us. Some do, Sarah admitted, but not everyone. We do not wish to cause trouble for you or your people, said an elderly Harbinger male with silver markings on his dark green skin. Perhaps it would be better if we surrendered ourselves. No, said a voice from the corner. It was the youngest Harbinger, the one Dr. Park had mentioned. She looked like a teenager by human standards, with bright, curious eyes and the natural confidence of youth. We have done nothing wrong. Why should we surrender? The older Harbinger looked at her with gentle sadness. Niraka, you do not understand. The galaxy has good reason to fear our kind. But we are not our kind, Niraka replied firmly. We are us. We chose peace. We chose to run away from war instead of fighting it. We should not have to pay for what others did 50,000 years ago. Sarah looked at the young Harbinger and felt something stir in her chest. The girl reminded her of her own daughter back on Earth, brave and idealistic and absolutely certain about right and wrong. She's right, Sarah said. You shouldn't have to pay for crimes you didn't commit, her communicator beeped again. This time it was Captain Zixka from the Villani research ship. Admiral Chen, I am receiving communication from my government. They are ordering me to support the Council Fleet's actions. Sarah sighed. She had hoped the Villani would support them, but she understood their position. They were a peaceful people who couldn't risk making enemies. I understand. Captain. However, Zixka continued, I have decided that my ship's communication system is experiencing technical difficulties. I cannot seem to receive any orders from my government right now. Sarah smiled despite the situation. The Villani captain was choosing to help in the only way he could. Thank you, Captain. Back on the bridge, Sarah looked at the Council fleet surrounding them. She had a choice to make. She could hand over the Harbinger refugees and avoid a fight. It would be the safe choice, the smart choice. Her superiors on Earth would probably understand. But when she thought about Niraka's young face, and Kesna's hope, and the family pictures on the walls of the ancient ship, she knew what she had to do. Commander Walsh, open a channel to all ships in the area, not just the Council fleet. I want this broadcast on all galactic frequencies. Admiral, what are you doing? Something that's either very smart or very stupid. When the channel was open, Sarah took a deep breath and began to speak. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Federation. I am broadcasting to all ships in this area, and to anyone listening on galactic communication networks. 6 hours ago, we responded to a distress call and found 12 survivors of the ancient Harbinger civilization. She paused and looked at the camera, knowing her words were being heard across the galaxy. These survivors are not the Harbingers from your history books. They are refugees who fled their own people's war 50,000 years ago. They are families with children. They are scientists and teachers and artists who chose peace over conquest. On the screen showing the Council fleet, she could see Vextor's ship moving into a more aggressive position. The Galactic Council wants to imprison these people for crimes they did not commit, for a war they refused to fight. They want to judge them based on their species rather than their actions. Sarah's voice grew stronger as she continued. The Human Federation will not hand over innocent refugees to be imprisoned or experimented on. These people have suffered enough. They deserve the same chance at peace and freedom that any of us would want for our own families. She looked directly into the camera. So I am asking the galaxy to make a choice. Do we judge people by their species or by their actions? Do we let fear make our decisions, or do we choose to be better? Sarah ended the broadcast and turned to her tactical officer. What's the Council fleet doing? No change in position, Admiral. They're waiting. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. The human ships and the Council fleet faced each other in tense silence. Then Lieutenant Torres looked up from her communication station with surprise. Admiral, we're receiving messages. Hundreds of them. From who? Everyone. Species we've never heard of. Independent traders. Colony worlds. Even some council member governments. Sarah watched as the messages appeared on screen. Most of them were short, but their meaning was clear. The Altarian Trade Union supports the human position. Onidai. World Thera offers sanctuary to the Harbinger refugees. The Independent Systems Alliance condemns council aggression. New. Rigel Colony requests permission to offer homes to refugee families. The messages kept coming. Dozens, then hundreds of species and governments offering support. Some offered sanctuary for the refugees. Others condemned the council's aggressive response. A few even offered to send their own ships to help protect the humans. Admiral Vextor's face appeared on screen again. This time he looked less confident. Admiral Chen, you have created a very difficult situation. I've created an opportunity, Admiral. An opportunity for the galaxy to show what it really stands for. The Council will not back down from this. Then the Council will have to explain to the galaxy why they're willing to start a war over 12 refugees who just want to live in peace. Vextor was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, Sarah could see other officers on his bridge looking worried and uncertain. are forcing us to choose between our orders and galactic opinion, he said finally. I'm forcing you to choose. Between fear and compassion, Sarah replied. The same choice these refugees made 50,000 years ago. The Council fleet began to move, but not into attack positions. Slowly, carefully, they pulled back to a safer distance. They were still watching, but they were no longer threatening immediate action. Sarah's communicator chimed. It was Dr. Park again. Admiral, the refugees want to speak with you. Sarah returned to the medical bay where all 12 harbingers were waiting for her. Kesna stepped forward as their spokesperson. Admiral Chen, we have heard what you said to the galaxy. We have heard the responses you received. We do not understand why you would risk so much for strangers. Sarah looked at their faces. Old and young, scared and hopeful, alien but somehow familiar. Because it's the right thing to do, she said simply. Because everyone deserves a chance to live without fear. Young Nirika smiled, and for the first time since waking up she looked truly hopeful. Perhaps, she said quietly. The galaxy has changed for the better while we were sleeping. Outside, the stars watched as two fleets faced each other in an ancient dance of diplomacy and force. But for the first time in 50,000 years, the Harbinger refugees had something they had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. 3 days later, the space around the ancient Harbinger vessel had become the busiest place in the galaxy. Ships from dozens of species had arrived, not to fight but to help. The massive Council fleet still maintained their distance, but they were no longer alone in their vigilance. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching the growing fleet of volunteer ships on her main screen. Merchant vessels, colony transports, even some small military escorts had come to offer assistance. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres reported, we're receiving another offer of sanctuary. This time from the Thanari homeworld, Sarah smiled. The Thanari were known for their artistic culture and peaceful nature. Like the Villani, they were not a species typically associated with bold political stands. How many offers is that now? 47 worlds have offered homes to the refugees, Admiral. Some are offering to take families. Others want to welcome individual specialists. The Kalani Science Institute specifically requested to host Kesna. Apparently her research field was mentioned in the historical records. Dr. Park's voice came through the ship's communication system. Admiral, could you come to Observation Deck 3? There's something the refugees want to show you. Sarah made her way through the ship's corridors, passing crew members who nodded respectfully as she walked by. The mood on the ship had changed completely over the past 3 days. What had started as a tense rescue mission had become something like a celebration. When she reached Observation Deck 3, she found all 12 Harbinger refugees gathered around the large windows that looked out into space. They were pointing at the various ships and talking excitedly in their ancient language. Young Nirika saw Sarah enter and ran over to her with the enthusiasm only a teenager could manage. Admiral Chen, Kesna has been teaching us about all the different ship designs. That one there is Altarian. See how the hull curves like a bird's wing? And that one is from the Thane Collective. Their ships look like floating crystals. Sarah looked out at the assembled fleet and felt amazed by what she saw. Ships from species that had never worked together before were flying in careful formation, sharing supplies and information. It was like a miniature version of what the galaxy could be if fear didn't divide everyone. Kesna approached more slowly, moving with the careful dignity of someone still recovering from 50,000 years in cold sleep. Admiral, she said, we wanted to thank you for what you have done. But more than that, we wanted to ask you something. What is it? The galaxy has shown us such kindness. So many worlds have offered us homes, but we have been talking among ourselves and we have realized something important. Sarah waited for her to continue. For 50,000 years, we have been running from our past. We have been defined by what we fled from rather than what we chose to become. We think it is time to stop running. What do you mean? It was the elderly Harbinger male who answered. His name was Dexvor, and he had been a teacher before the war that destroyed his civilization. We want to stay together, he said, not as harbingers hiding from history, but as something new. A community that chooses cooperation over conquest, learning over war. Nirika bounced excitedly. We want to build something. A place where different species can work together and learn from each other. Like what's happening out there with all those ships. Sarah looked at the young alien's bright eyes and felt something warm spread through her chest. This was what hope looked like. That's a beautiful idea, she said. But where would you build such a place? Kesna smiled, and for the first time since waking up she looked completely at peace. The Human Federation has offered us citizenship on any of your worlds. Your people understand what it means to survive against impossible odds. You understand that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose to help someone else. You want to settle in human space? If you will have us, Dexfor said formally. We would like to help build your colonies, share our knowledge, learn from your experiences, show the galaxy that former enemies can become family. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. She thought about the long journey that had brought them all to this moment. A simple distress call had become a chance to heal wounds that were 50,000 years old. I think that can be arranged, she said quietly. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Vextor of the Council Fleet. Admiral Chen, the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding the Harbinger refugees. Sarah straightened. What decision? Given the overwhelming galactic response to your broadcast, the Council has voted to grant the refugees full legal status as displaced persons seeking asylum. They will be free to settle wherever they choose with full protection under galactic law. Sarah felt relief flood through her. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me, Admiral Chen. Thank the galaxy. Your people have taught us all something important about the difference between justice and vengeance. 2 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting the human colony world of New Geneva. Below her, the planet's surface sparkled with the lights of growing cities. The world was young, like most human colonies, but it was growing fast. Admiral, called a familiar voice. Sarah turned to see Nirika running toward her with a huge smile on her face. The young Harbinger had grown stronger and more confident over the past weeks. She was wearing human-style clothes and had learned to speak standard galactic without any accent. Nira, what brings you up to the station? I wanted to show you something. Look. Nirika pointed down at the planet's surface. In one area, Sarah could see the construction lights of a major building project, the Sanctuary Institute, Nirika said proudly. It's going to be a place where species from all over the galaxy can come to study together. We're building it with Villani mathematics and Thane crystal growing techniques in human engineering. Kesna is going to be the director of xenobiology research. Sarah smiled as she watched the lights of construction vehicles moving across the planet's surface. What about you? What are you going to study? Diplomatic relations, Nirika said immediately. I want to learn how to help different species understand each other. I want to make sure nothing like the old Harbinger War ever happens again. That's a worthy goal. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the lights of the growing world below them. Finally, Nirika spoke again. Admiral Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you help us, really? You could have followed orders and handed us over to the Council. It would have been safer for you and your people. Sarah thought about the question for a long moment. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, and the kind of galaxy she wanted to leave for her. She thought about the family pictures on the walls of the ancient Harbinger ship, and the hope in Kesna's eyes when she first woke up. Because it was the right thing to do, she said finally. Because sometimes the most important battles aren't the ones you fight with weapons. They're the ones you fight with choices. Nirika nodded solemnly. I think I understand. You didn't defeat the galaxy's fear with force. You defeated it with example. Something like that. Down on the planet's surface, the lights of the construction continued their steady work. Humans and Harbingers and dozens of other species were building something new together, a place where the galaxy's ancient fears could finally be put to rest. Sarah thought about the distress signal that had started it all. Someone calling for help across the darkness of space, hoping that somewhere someone would hear and care enough to answer. The Deathworlders had answered that call, but their most powerful weapon hadn't been their legendary toughness or their ability to survive impossible odds. It had been something much simpler and much stronger, the courage to show kindness when fear would have been easier. In the end, that was what had changed everything. Not force or threats or superior firepower, but the simple decision to see people in need and help them, regardless of who they were or where they came from. As she watched the lights of New Geneva twinkling in the darkness below, Admiral Sarah Chen smiled. The galaxy was a little bit brighter tonight and a little bit kinder. Sometimes that was the best victory of all.